right, Mr. Moon Man. Go and hide your face behind the clouds. Can't you see that couples want a spoon man to his company and three?
Well, the first Who Built America CD-Rom, which covered 1876 to 1914, and it was produced under the auspices of a media company, Voyager. This was an example of support that we were receiving from non-public sources that were interested in that case, creating the first electronic textbook, which was how the person who ran Voyager characterized it.
If you think of the textbook as a road, a long, windy, continuous road, what we ended up thinking of, the metaphor we created, was we would create excursions, side trips off the main road, off the textbook, where you could explore in greater detail something that was of interest to you. Whether it was something historical, something cultural, something political, we would create an excursion which would mix media. What we ended up doing was putting in 200 excursions hundreds and hundreds of primary documents and visual images, whereas in a chapter in a textbook you could be limited to maybe 10 or 15 images, hundreds of images. Audio, including oral history material, other kinds of primary sources, and video. Not just the video we produce, but newsreel and other things.
The Who Built America CD-Rom was used in a variety of ways at City College. To enhance the lectures presented to the whole class, to focus the smaller weekly discussion groups, and by students individually as the source for weekly written assignments.
It's made them realize that they're part of history. It's also changed their perception from a pedagogical perspective. It's not us standing in front of a room lecturing them. It's not them with notebooks mindlessly writing down everything that we're telling them. It's tried to make it a first-person experience, and I think it's been quite successful.
Suddenly we heard that there were complaints about content, but there were reviews that said, oh, they're politically correct, which intertwined with the critiques, which were basically about birth control, sexuality, abortion. The critiques were not about any interpretation, but about the documents that were included. This led to quite a furor. There was a period of time when Apple stopped bundling, as it was called, the program in its computers. One of the biggest critiques was perhaps the most absurd. There was a poem by the poet laureate of, I believe, was Iowa, which was about his gay lover. And included with the poem was a photograph, an archival photograph of cowboys basically nude, or certainly from the waist up nude, in a pond while they were, on the range. We got a huge amount of critique about it. It was a certain amount of, I think, let's say it made funders for a while a little nervous about supporting the second CD-Rom, which covered a later period. The CD-Rom got a lot of attention, if for nothing else, because it was the first U.S. history CD-Rom, or certainly close to the first.
Walt Mossberg, who was the technology reviewer for the Wall Street Journal, flipped when he got it. And basically said, this is a game changer. This is in effect going to change how textbooks are looked at, how textbooks are used.
Forbes hated it, said it was the worst CD-Rom of the year, if I remember correctly. There was at least one or two others that basically said the same thing and threw in that epithet again about being politically correct, which was obviously a complete misuse of the term. There was both admiration, and by the way, we won major awards at the same time as we were being denounced to some other publications.
It sold over 100,000 copies. It was a big seller, and it would have been as fundamentally transformative had not the World Wide Web been created like a year or two later. So then we had to go and change much of what we'd done on the CD-ROM to make it available through History Matters as a website.